Good morning and welcome to today's webinar. It is Online Reader Resources and our presenter today is Kira Smith. Ebooks were what my life was about during the last part of my full-time professional career, so I am waiting to learn a bunch of wonderful new stuff. So Kira, take it away.
Thank you, Al. Welcome, everybody. Just to make sure that everybody can hear and use the chat box, if you can hear me, could you please put a hi or a yes in the chat box? That way I'll know you can hear me and that you know how to use the chat box. And as we do that, thank you, Allison. Welcome to the webinar. This is one of the most fun webinars I've ever worked on. I found a ton of interesting resources and I look forward to sharing them with you. I see lots of hi's and hellos in the chat box, so hi to you too. Please feel free to ask questions at any time in the chat box, and also please feel free to suggest other sites and features. Even if you think of them way after I've moved on, I'd still love to hear about them. We're going to start today with the big sites like Overdrive, Hoopla, Novelist, Goodreads, and then we'll move on into sites and apps for book reviews, reading lists, awards. Thank you. Happy Wednesday to you too, and other tools that you can introduce to readers. So we're going to start with sources that you find in the library and that the library provides. And my first question to you is, do you use Overdrive? So please put a yes or a no or a only when I have to help patrons with it into the chat box. I see a yes. I see another yes. I see a no. Okay, good. Another yes. So that's great. And Overdrive and Libby provide access to the most ebooks and other e-content that's out there. Libby is Overdrive's newest app, and it makes it even easier to use Overdrive's resources. It's available for iOS, Android, and Microsoft. And I see Jan said when I have to. And there are some slight differences between Overdrive and Libby, but you can use both of them on the desktop and on mobile devices. And one of the coolest features about Overdrive is it provides a ton of free marketing content in their resource center. So I'm going to show you that real quick. And you can see they've got print-ready marketing. So they've got a Black History Month kit, a teen romance kit, and workouts. They also provide digital marketing. So if you're looking for content for social media, they have it ready-made for you. They've got Facebook posts that you can just pop up there, Twitter posts, and they have their own Overdrive on Pinterest. They can also help you plan events. Right now, they've got a e-reading cafe kind of event going on, an ebook coffee house. And they also provide ready-made things for your newsletter, so you can just add that there. And they have videos too. They have videos that can promote Overdrive, and they also have videos that can teach users how to use it, which can be very helpful. So let's switch back over to the slideshow. I want to highlight some of the features of Overdrive because some of them I think everybody knows about, but some of them are less well known. So we're going to start by taking a look at Overdrive on my iPad because I think most people use it on devices rather than computers when they're reading ebooks. And the mobile versions tend to have a few more features than the desktop version, which is a little weird. So we're going to switch over there now, hopefully. Well, not that way. So here we have Overdrive on my iPad, and you can see that they've got the best books of 2018 here. You can right away at the top see that this one is available. If you wanted to read this one, you'd have to join the wait list, and this one's available. Then as you look down, you can see the covers, you can see the title, the author. You can see that this one is available as an ebook. This one's available as an audiobook. Since this one is available, you can click right now and place a hold on it. Or if you just want to add it to your wish list, that's what this little bookmark with a plus means. Then you can also go and tap on these three little dots. Whoops, did I miss there? Yes, I missed. Let me go back there so you can see what happens when I tap on just the three little dots. So here's the three little dots. And when you tap on the three little dots, you can read a sample, you can view the details of the book, you can view the series, you can add it to your history. So if you do use Goodreads, which we're going to come to later, you can also keep your reading history on Overdrive if you want to, so you can keep track of everything you've ever read. And you can also see this You Might Like feature. And so if it's one of the books that's not available, then you can right away see other books that you might like. So You can see all of that there. We're going to scroll down a little bit because I want to show you one that's unavailable. Hopefully one will pop up pretty soon. Or maybe not. Here we go. So here's one that is currently unavailable, so you'd have to join the wait list if you wanted to. So you could click on the dots, but if you tap directly on the book, it's going to give you a lot more information about it, maybe. So here you can see, again, the title, author, the cover. You can also see that it's part of a series. You can see that it is in ebook form. You can also see a star rating. There are 0 of 2 copies available, and the wait time is available soon. If you want to find out more, you can tap on this little question mark, and it'll tell you that there are 2 library copies and nobody's waiting for them. So I'm not sure exactly why it's available soon unless they've just added it to the catalog. Then here you can also add it to your wish list, and it's nice because it explains what the icon means here. You can also add it to your history if you want. You can scroll down even further to read a description, find out more about the creators, see some details about it, and you can also see reviews. And you can see that this review comes from School Library Journal. There's one from Kirkus and Publishers Weekly. So right here, you've got access to professional reviews about it. If we go all the way back up to the top on the right side, you can see what formats it's available in. So we've got Kindle Book and Kindle restrictions. Then the subjects and the languages as well. And I see I have a question in the chat box, and Sharon is asking, what is the difference between the wait list and putting the book on hold? When you place a hold on it, you're basically adding yourself to the wait list. So if there were other people who had holds on it, you would see that there. Does that answer what you wanted to know? So now, okay, great, thanks. So now we're going to delve a little bit deeper into Overdrive. We looked at how you can see it and all the different formats. Since this is a children's book, some of the children's books also include not only the language, but they include the Lexile level, the interest level, and the text difficulty, but not for every book. One of the things that I didn't know when I started preparing for the webinar is that you can also check out videos through Overdrive. And to get to those, you tap on Collections, and it'll show you their special collections for kids and teens, the ebooks, the audiobooks that they have, and the videos. And videos are available through the Overdrive app, but not through Libby. So that's kind of an interesting difference there. And you can watch the videos in your browser. Another really cool feature of Overdrive is the search feature. And so here we can start looking for, let's say, love. And as you start typing it in, it auto-completes. And you can see that not only is it auto-completing for series, but it's also auto-completing different authors and eventually titles too. So it depends on what you type in. But it's nice that the autocomplete comes up with all those different options. If that still wasn't finding you what you needed, you can go to, whoops, let's go back to search, and you can go to advanced search. And advanced search has all the usual options that you would expect, title, author, and that kind of thing. It also includes awards. So you can see their 10 best books on Overdrive for many years. Plus, it's going to show you what won the Alex Award. You can search to see all the Bram Stoker Award winners. And not only does it have award winners for some of them, it also has finalists and nominees. So if you want to catch up on reading every historical dagger book or every Hugo Award nominee, you can do that by limiting your search here. So I thought that was a kind of cool feature. Another thing that you can do, if we maybe, oh no, let's go back up here to search. We can search for a book that I know they don't have because I have practiced this, but you can search for a book, and if Overdrive doesn't have it, oh, where did that come from? Just drag that out of our way. If you have that here and you see they didn't find any, you can also recommend it. However, I will caution you that once you touch that recommended, you have recommended it. There's no getting out of it easily. So you can see at the top of each of them that they show that I've already recommended it. This one is not owned, and those are not owned, but I could click down here to recommend it, and it shows you the same basic information there. Now, if you do recommend it accidentally and you realize, oops, you can see by going to my account and recommendations all of the books that you've recommended, and then happily you can see that I have 99 more that I can recommend. You can also see all of your account limits here. So if I wanted to do that, I could see how many loans I have, how many holds I have, my renewal options, that I can have 5,000 things on my wish list, and it says I can recommend 99 titles every one day. I don't think that's correct because I've practiced this a number of times and that never goes away. So I suspect the limit is something slightly different than that, but it is nice to know how that works. So I'll click out of that. I also wanted to point out a few things when you are reading a book on Overdrive. So I'm going to jump back over to my slideshow to show you what it looks like when you're reading a book here. So you have the options up here. You can adjust whether your book appears as one column or two. You can search within the book right there. And you can also click on the little hamburger menu, which gives you, again, the option to search. It shows you a list of chapters, otherwise known as a table of contents. But the cool thing here is that you can also see which chapter you're on, so you can get an idea of where you are in the book, which is sometimes confusing with ebooks because you don't realize from the thickness of that you're approaching the end. Then you can also see your bookmarks here. And if you want to leave a bookmark, they have a little bookmark icon that shows up on the top of every page, and you just tap that, and that'll leave you a bookmark. You can also see your history, and this is cool because it shows you what you read when, which is nice if you're trying to find something. You can adjust your reading settings. As I did here, I went for the sepia background, and I made the type bigger. They also have different fonts that you can include, like Open Dyslexic and some other custom fonts. You can adjust the justification, the line spacing, the type weight, all of that. You can access your book offline if you want. And in Tips and Secrets, they have some keyboard shortcuts and some other little interesting tidbits there. My favorite is, as I've done here, I tapped on the up arrow, and then I can see the Seekometer, which also shows you where you are in the book and kind of how much you have left. So I like to keep that up so I can figure out where I am. There's also a sync button, and you can get to these options in the mobile version by swiping up on your screen. So that's kind of Overdrive in a nutshell. Now I'm going to go on to Libby, and Libby is Overdrive's newest app. It has some of the same features that you find in Overdrive, but it looks slightly different. So we're going to go back over here to my iPad. And the first thing that I noticed when I logged into Libby is, oh, wow, it doesn't show you if they're available or not, which is a feature that I really like. So I was not so happy about that. Another thing that you'll notice is as you scroll down, there's a lot more content here on Libby with they're just added and all of these other options that you have and statistics. And it's kind of, I don't know, a little bit more visual than I feel like Overdrive is. Plus, it's also showing you what I'm reading now. One thing that you can do here is you can search for a book. And so I'm going to go with, and you can again see the suggestions that it's going to make. And let's see if I can get it to just becoming. No. Okay. I'll cancel out of that and try it a different way. So again, we don't have the three little dots here that you had on Overdrive. On Overdrive, but we can tap on a book and get a whole lot of information about it right away. So you can see the book, the author, the publisher, release date, again, how many are available, the content, which things it's available on, and a more in-depth description of the book. You can place a hold on it right here, read a sample of it, add a tag. Now it's saying available soon, and you can tap on this calendar, and it's showing you that there are 14 copies in use, and it should become available in the next few days. These messages do vary. I was trying it out on Becoming, Michelle Obama's book, and you could see that there were like 300 copies and 200 people waiting, and then it still gives you an estimate of when it's going to become available. And I know that at my library, patrons always want to know how many people are ahead of me and what does that mean in terms of when I'm going to get to borrow it. So I think it's nice in Libby that they give you this information. They show you the 14 available, etc. Let's see. As you scroll down, you can also see, let's get out of that. You could see if it was available as an audiobook, they would show that here. You can also see over here on the left that it shows you which genres it's in. And not only does it show you that, it shows you other things that are in the genre, which is nice for people who might not be familiar with the terms, but might be familiar with other books. Then it's going to show you more things that might interest you. And another thing that I want to point out to you here on Libby is if you go back here to the start page, they have the preferences listed. And so here you can choose what format. If you like to listen to audiobooks, you might just want it to show you that. You can pick the language, and Libby has lots of languages that you can choose from. You can look at the audience and pick which one you're into. You can also go to the compatibility, and then the one I like to change is this everything, and I like it to show me only things that are available now, so I could do that. And then you can also have it sort your search results, so whenever you do a search, which way it's going to come up, either by popularity, date added, etc. And then you can apply your preferences, and it will set that for you. And it will let you know here that you have now made 2 preferences selections, so you could go back and change that if you wanted to. They also have this Explore feature, which is nice because then you can look at their guides for different kinds of content, and those go on. So that's another nice feature that you don't have in Overdrive, is this Explore. So now we're going to go back over here. And here is the reading experience in Libby. It looks much the same, and again, I chose the sepia tone. But another thing that you can do in both of them is that you can tap on a word, and it gives you this option to get a definition, to highlight the word, or to search for it. When you search for it, it will show you every instance of the word in the entire book. When you highlight it, obviously it's going to give you a highlight, but you can add notes to that too. And if you tap on Define, it's going to give you a dictionary definition from dictionary.com. It's going to show you topics, which interestingly enough come from DuckDuckGo, so all these different Sinclair topics. And then if you want to find out more, it's going to show you other results on Overdrive, Wikipedia, Google, and it will also translate the word for you. So that's kind of a neat note-taking feature that you can see in both Overdrive and Libby. So now we're going to move on from Overdrive to Hoopla, which lends ebooks, audiobooks, comics, movies, music, and TV shows. We're mainly going to focus on the ebooks, audiobooks, and comics. So just to show you some contrast, I'm going to show you Overdrive on the desk. Sorry, not Overdrive. I'm going to show you Hoopla on the desktop. So let me get that showing. Go here. So here we have Hoopla, and it starts with a carousel of titles, so you can see what are some things that you might want to check out. It right away tells you how many titles you've borrowed and how many more you can borrow this month. You can see your borrowing history. And let's switch back over here. Since it only, Hoopla has a different sort of borrowing model than Overdrive does. Overdrive, you could see I could have 6 loans, and when I use those loans up, I return them and I get 6 more. In Hoopla, you have a monthly limit, so I can borrow 9 titles this month. And if you're reading a lot of children's books and comics, it's really easy to use up your 9 loans quickly. Hoopla has a different model, so it's kind of a pay-per-use model rather than a subscription model like Overdrive has. But anything that you see on Hoopla is immediately available to you, so there are no placing holds and there's no waiting. If you see it there, it's available. As we move down the page, you can see other things that they've recommended for me and my favorites. You can also see, if you hover over one of those, you can right away see a star rating, and even if you haven't read it, you can add a rating to it. You can see the author, you can see that it's YA, it shows you the year, and it also tells you how many printed pages there are. And I think it's interesting that this is a feature that's included on Hoopla and not the other one, because I know for a lot of readers, they don't want to check out anything that's too long or too short, so it is something that's important to people. You can also borrow it, because there's no holds or waiting, and you could also make it a favorite if you wanted to. If you are using it in the mobile app, it doesn't have this hover over feature, but if you click on a book, let's see, if if we click on a book, again, it's going to show you title, year, language, etc. It's also going to show you a description and tell you about your loan period and how it's available. It'll tell you similar artists and related titles. So you get a bunch of information that way. You can also go back up here and announce that you're reading it on Facebook or Twitter. So now moving back to the slideshow again, maybe. The reading experience on Hoopla is very similar to what you get on Overdrive and Libby. Here you can adjust the font size and you can see all of those options. They even have a mint green background. You can adjust all of these different features. You can also see up here that you have the option to search. You have, again, the table of contents feature, and the bookmark feature is, instead of being in the center of the page, it's all the way over here to the right. Another thing that's different is that on Hoopla, all the time, it shows you what percentage into the book you are and what page you are on out of how many. So if you like to keep track, that's helpful. One problem with Hoopla at my library is that it isn't integrated into the catalog, which means that patrons don't see the books that are available through Hoopla unless they search Hoopla directly, which is kind of a problem because if they don't know about it, then they won't find it. However, I will say that Hoopla was very responsive when I contacted them for information and slides, and they gave me a whole bunch. So I want to point out that they are great for comic books and graphic novels. You get a really nice view. They also tend to be innovative. They were the first ones that you could listen to directly through your Amazon Alexa, and you could have it play your book for you, your audiobook. That was nice. They also have 7 different reading speeds. These are great if you are reading a book for your book club and your book club is the next day and you need to get through it quickly and you can stand to listen to it in slightly chipmunk voices. That can be helpful. They also have tons of promotional materials that you can use. And they also have different collections. Here's their STEAM collection. And they also have language learning materials and non-English materials available for checkout too. So those are some other nice features that Hoopla includes. So now we're going to go on to Freeding and Access 360. Overdrive, Hoopla, and Libby are the big ones, but some libraries use Freeding and Access 360. Unfortunately, my library does not use either of these, so if your library does, please put a comment on your thoughts about Freeding and Access 360 into the chat box. I'll talk a little bit about them. Freeding is like Hoopla in that it lets you download titles immediately. There's no waiting, no holds. It uses the pay-per-use model, and it isn't really intended to be a library system's only ebook provider. Also, it requires the use of Adobe Digital Editions, which if you used Overdrive back in the day, you may remember how challenging that could be to set up for some library users. So that's a bit of a drawback to Freeding. Here is the iPad view of what the library looks like, and you can see that right away, it shows you exactly how long you get to have the book for. And here are their reader options, which again, they have tons of different choices that you can adjust. They don't quite have the mint green that you can find on Hoopla, but lots of other things that you can tweak. As I said, my library doesn't use Freeding, so please, if your library does use Freeding, add some comments to the chat box on any thoughts that you would like to share. And while you're doing that, if you are, I'm going to go on and talk about Access 360, which is Baker & Taylor's digital content service, and it too offers ebooks and audiobooks in a single app. They promise that it's very easy to use and that you should be able to discover and enjoy digital content in 3 steps or less, which sounds terrific to me, knowing how hard some of these are to set up. Also, Access 360 has a single sign-on feature so that patrons only have to log in once with their library card number and PIN. There is no email address required, and there's nothing else necessary if you want to read a book on a computer. As with Overdrive and Hoopla, they have lots of customizations for font size, color, and brightness. They also have a search within the book feature. You can see that little magnifying glass there. They have bookmarking, highlighting, and note-taking. One big drawback to Access 360, though, is that it doesn't include anything in the Kindle format, so that leaves out a considerable number of library users. Again, my library doesn't use it, so if yours does, please add comments to the chat box, and I promise I will come back to them later. We are going to move on now to keep the webinar going and talk about RB Digital, which provides audiobooks and digital magazines. I didn't know this, but the RB in RB Digital stands for recorded books, which makes sense now. And as with Hoopla, RB Digital's audiobooks don't show up in the library catalog, so again, patrons have to know to go and look there. Here's what you'll see before you check out an audiobook. You see the title, the author, the cover image, the genre, the format, and whether it's protected, which is an interesting thing to show. It shows you the loan period, which you can make shorter. And it also includes a preview so you can decide if you like the narrator's voice before you commit to reading it. When you're using RB Digital, and searching for audiobooks, you can search by all these different options. Also, you can see the languages that are available are only English and Spanish here, but you can search by author, series, even fiction and nonfiction, which is a nice limiter, and again, the digital rights, whether it's protected or not. They do also cover magazines. So here is the magazine search page, which shows you the magazine covers, the title of the magazine, and perhaps you can see some headlines. But unless you have very sharp eyes, it's difficult to make out the date or the issue in this view. When you do select a magazine, you can view the cover and the issue date and the format. And you can also see a description of the magazine, the details, and all the issues that are available. When you check out the magazine, you have the option to check it out and keep browsing for more, or you can read it right away. And you also have the option to automatically check out the next issue, which is nice because it makes it like you're having a real magazine subscription. Here is the magazine view. And on the left, you have the option to view a table of contents. You can view the page view. You can add bookmarks to your magazines. You can go full screen, or you can zoom in and out, and you have the option to print it. One of the reasons that I like RB Digital especially, though, is that you see everything in the magazine. So you see the pictures, the text, and also the ads. So if you contrast that with reading a magazine through online databases like Academic OneFile, where you only get the text, I find RB Digital is more of a magazine reading experience. On the other hand, RB Digital doesn't offer full text searching of the magazine, so if you want to search for something, you might be better off with one of the online databases. So now on to Novelist Plus, and this kind of marks a shift in the presentation because we're going from resources where people can actually read and listen to books and magazines to resources that can help readers find things to read. So Novelist Plus is an EBSCO database. It can help you with reader's advisory, or patrons can also use it and use it to find what they want to read next. Basic Novelist only includes fiction. The Plus part adds nonfiction and audiobooks, and it is a great tool for using to find books that people remember reading years ago, but they might not remember the title, the author, or anything else about it, but they can give you a few details. Novelist Plus makes it easy to find those. There are a ton of features here, which is great. I'm going to take you for a live look there, so bear with me as I switch over to that. And this is, of course, a great time to ask questions if you have any. So here we are on Novelist Plus. And you can, if you're searching, you can search, let me start actually on the home screen. Maybe, okay, here we go. Fingers crossed that it lets me stay logged in. Oh, yes. Okay, so on the home screen, you can search by keyword, title, author, series, and narrator. So those are pretty basic. One of the things that is really great is that if you go to the advanced search, it gives you 20 different options that you can limit your search by, including author's nationality, author's gender, and author's cultural identity. I haven't seen any other book search that includes that particular feature. And then it has like all the rest of the usual kinds of things that you might want to limit your search by. So that's a neat feature of Novelist Plus. And this is great when you know what you want to search for. On the other hand, if you don't know what you're looking for, this is a great feature of Novelist Plus. They have these recommended reads list, which right now they've got Best in Fiction for 2018, and this includes 10 different subcategories. And these lists are created by novelist experts, so they're not necessarily the same best lists that you would find elsewhere. One of their other recommended reads lists that I particularly like is this For Fans Of, and you can see some of the examples here. They do update this on a regular basis, so you can often find new stuff here. So that's one way that you can find great stuff. Another thing that you can do is look in the center of the page here for I'm in the mood for books that are, and then limit by age group. We'll take a look at teen, and we've got conversational and angst-filled, complex and emotionally intense, authentic and funny, haunting and atmospheric, and we'll take a look at, let's try haunting and atmospheric. Again, if you hover over it, you'll get a little information about the book, title, author, a little description, and right away you can add it to your folder if you think you're going to want to read it. Or you can click on the book, maybe, and there we go, and it'll open up and it'll give you a lot more information about the book. So I want to point out in particular that right here under the cover of the book, you can see the popularity of the book on Novelist Plus. Plus, you can see its star rating on Goodreads and that it has 151 reviews on Goodreads. So you can find out more about it right away. Then you can also see their book appeal terms. So it's in paranormal fiction, atmospheric and haunting, the writing style, grade level, etc. Then you can check if it's available in your library catalog. And as you scroll down, not only do you have access to those Goodreads reviews, but you have access to professional reviews here too. You can see if it's available as an audiobook. You can find out more about the book, and you can see if it appears in any lists and articles on Novelist Plus. Then, if it wasn't available in your library, or if you're doing a book club and you want more things that are like that book, or a book display even, you can go over here and see a whole list of read-alikes. And they have these for every book that you can find in Novelist Plus. Again, if this book wasn't meeting your needs, but you wanted more in this topic or genre, you can go down here to the bottom of the page and you can check these little click boxes and find other books that are about those kind of things. So there are lots of options there. So that's a basic book search on Novelist. I skipped over this orange bar at the top, which is totally good too. You can browse by genre, appeal. Here's where you can find award winners on Novelist Plus, and you can search for audiobooks. Then they have this especially for tab, which really should be especially for librarians, because they've got this excellent section on Reader's Advisory, and that includes stuff on book displays, resources for book clubs, and suggestions, and all sorts of other goodies. Then under quick links, you can find author read-alikes, book discussion guides. There are over 800 different guides here. They have books to movies, which is updated a couple times a year, and they have an archive that goes back 3 years. They also have, curriculum connections, grab and go book lists, and picture book extenders. So these are all terrific resources, mainly for librarians, but I guess other readers might be interested in them too. Then this How Do I tab includes basically an FAQ, including how do I see only books available in my library? And this is something that people often want to know, so I like to point that out. This is really a very brief overview of what Novelist includes. So if your library has a subscription to it, I really encourage you to get out and explore there and make the most of the subscription because it has so many resources available for you. So I'll pause briefly for a second in case anybody has any questions. And so please feel free to put those in the chat box. And then I'm going to continue on to reading beyond the library and start with good old Project Gutenberg. Its interface is kind of old and clunky, but if you want free ebooks, don't rule out Project Gutenberg. They have over 58,000 free ebooks, including EPUB and Kindle. Their primary focus is on American works with expired copyright, which is great because there are now a whole bunch of new books in the public domain for the first time in 20 years. They also list what the top 100 books and authors are each day, and they share which new books are posted there each day. You can follow that on their Twitter or Facebook or by RSS, so if you always want to know what's being updated there. And Project Gutenberg offers a lot of different formats for downloading books. You can preview it by looking at it in HTML and taking a look at it online before you commit. But they not only let you download individual books, but if you find an author there, like Mark Twain, you can download his entire works, so get a whole bunch all at once. Another cool trick that you can do is you can use Project Gutenberg with Google And so if we go to Google Images and we do site:/Gutenberg.org, you can search everything in Project Gutenberg there, and that works with a lot of other sites. But the cool thing that you can do, and this is how I found the picture of Ozma of Oz, is you can enter in a search term and search in Google Images. It will find you images within those books, and since they are in the public domain, you can use these. So you can see lots of images from the Oz books. You could also enter, let's say, Alice, and find Alice in Wonderland pictures, which are always kind of cool. Or if you're interested in Grimm's fairy tales, you can find some images from Grimm's fairy tales there. So all you have to do is go to Google and do site:/Gutenberg.org and then enter in your search term. And I had it set to Google Images. If you do it directly from Google, you would then have to go to the Images tab. So that's just a fun Project Gutenberg trick that I like. While we're in the public domain, I also want to mention LibriVox, which is a source for free audiobooks, and they have over 12,000 cataloged works, which are read by volunteers from around the world. Many of the works there do come from Project Gutenberg. It's a great source, but keep in mind that they are volunteer narrators, so the quality sometimes varies. Now moving on further beyond the library and to social book cataloging websites. Here we have Goodreads. How many of you use Goodreads? Please put a yes in the chat box if you do use Goodreads. And I see some yeses, yeses, yeses. Lots of yeses. Yes. Okay, so I'm trusting then that you are generally familiar with it. So I'm going to kind of go over some of the features. You use it to keep track of books that you've read and you want to read. It's social because you can have friends and you can share your progress, thoughts, lists, and discussions with your friends or the entire Goodreads community. It can gamify your reading if you join the Goodreads Reading Challenge to read a specific number of books each year. And you can view your reading statistics there, such as how many pages you've read, your most read authors. And Goodreads analyzes what you've read so it can suggest more that you might like. However, Goodreads is owned by Amazon, which makes it easy to add the books that you've purchased from Amazon. And you can also import and export your books from Goodreads if you want to switch services. They accept CSV files, XLS and text files, and it's really easy to add books there. Your feed here shows what you've been reading or what your friends have been reading, and you can also follow authors and read about their new releases and interact with them. It'll show you the books that are trending in your favorite genres, and these updates are customizable so you can pick who and what you actually see there, unlike Facebook. Goodreads also has this community feature that includes groups. You can create private groups for your library's book clubs, and you can join many, many librarian lists and find book clubs for every sort of book that you ever imagined. They also have book giveaways and book articles and interviews. You can find quotes there and sometimes where they come from. But one of my favorite parts is the authors, because many authors have their own profiles where you can learn more about them. You can find their websites, their Twitter handles, the events they're attending. You can, if they make it public, see what they're reading and what they've read. You can ask them questions and read other questions that they've answered. And it's a great promotional tool for authors as well. Goodreads also allows users to vote for their Goodreads Choice Awards, so they nominate the books and then readers can vote for them. They also have a ton of profile settings, which you may want to adjust to protect your privacy. And there are also a bazillion email settings there. If you make it all the way to the bottom of the email settings, there is an option to opt out of all of them. The Goodreads app has a barcode scanner, which makes it super easy to add books to your to-read shelf. And it can make choosing a book easier because you hold the book in your hand, you scan it, and then you can see the Goodreads reviews before you decide to check it out or buy it. I do want to add that Goodreads and YA Book Twitter have been in the news recently over the power of advanced readers and reviewers. Last year, Kira Drake delayed the release of her book and revised it after commenters pointed out that it included negative racial stereotypes. Then a few weeks ago, Emily Wen Zhao canceled her book after she was accused of racial insensitivity. And I think that this is an issue that we as librarians need to be aware of in recommending review sites to readers, because it kind of brings up some thorny issues about inclusion and also about censorship. So if you have strong feelings about that, please feel free to share your comments about that kind of issue in the chat box as well. And I'm going to continue. If you want many of the features of Goodreads, but you don't want to share that information with Amazon to target and sell you more stuff, you might like the more open source library thing, which also allows you to catalog your books. It can help you find new things to read, talk to other readers and authors. You can get free early release books. It is free for 200 items and then $25 for a lifetime membership. There are no ads for paid members and nothing is shared by default. However, it's not nearly as big as Goodreads, and the interface looks like it was developed in the early 2000s because it was. On the other hand, it is truly a book geek's wonderland, as when you have an entry about a book, you can find the title, the author, the publisher, and publication date, just like you would on Goodreads. But you can also include reviews, ratings, your comments that you want to make public, your private comments, a summary of the book. It will bring in the medium of the book, a physical description of the book, including the pages, the height, the weight, the thickness, the LCCN, the ISBN, the Dewey Decimal, subject cataloging terms, tags, and more. So totally book geeky. They also have groups and discussion forums. Their local tab shows you local libraries and bookstores. The More tab shows you apps, widgets, and extensions, account settings, book giveaways, and other Library Thing projects such as Book Haiku and the Library Thing store, which includes the Library Thing Thong, which is exactly what you think it is. And then there's the Zeitgeist tab that shows you Library Thing statistics. It starts out with general ones like their members, the most reviewed books, and then for each of these sub-tabs, it has statistics on that kind of stuff too. Library Thing also produces an app called Litzy, which is free for iPhone and Android, and it too is a book community and social network for sharing book reviews, quotes, and book-related thoughts called blurbs. Instead of a catalog, you have book stacks for reading, read, and want to read, and these are displayed in your profile, and you can view your friends' stacks too. As with Reddit, you can build your Litfluence by getting likes and comments and getting people to add books from your posts. You can find people to follow there using Litzy's recommendations, or you can search for books that you've liked, then read the reviews that people have written and choose to follow them that way. One problem that I have with Litzy is that you can't just leave a star rating, although star ratings themselves can be problematic. You do have to leave an actual review, although it can be very short. And Litzy kind of has an Instagram feel to it, as people often post pictures of the books that they're reviewing. Then there's Riffle, which is a website that relies on humans instead of an algorithm to make book recommendations. And it's been referred to as the Pinterest of books, and you can probably see why from the screenshot. It's a lot more visual than Goodreads and Library Thing. When you sign up, it asks you to select some authors, genres, and titles, and then it suggests some of their members who've read similar things, and you can look at what they've read and recommended to figure out what you'd like to read next. When you've built up to following a whole lot of people, you'll then have a feed like this that gives you book recommendations. It too is similar to Goodreads, where you can keep track of what you've read and recommend things to others. You can follow friends and authors and find reading lists. They also offer discounted books, and you can import your reading history from Goodreads or Library Thing directly into Riffle. Then moving even further from the library collection, Wattpad describes itself as the most loved social storytelling platform, and it is home to fan fiction and a lot more. Yes, there is a lot of mature material there, and yes, there's some junk there, but it's also a place where people can find free works, read them, and discuss them with other readers and authors. And it's also kind of like a playground for authors who can experiment and write things that maybe not in their genre, and they can post their stories anonymously so no one knows who you are and where you come from. Then writers can get praise and feedback from their readers. And another good feature about Wattpad is that it does host legitimate writing contests. There are all sorts of writing contests out there on the web, and it's hard to know which ones to recommend, but I can tell you theirs is legit. And they also host a writers' conference. As of this morning, Wattpad was the #4 free book app at iTunes. Wattpad has 30 different genres that you can see here, including anime, fanfic, diverse lit, creepypasta, and more. And as you read and like things there, you will then get personalized recommendations. Here is the reader review. It too is very customizable. You can also see that for this story, there are a lot of comments and interaction. And both Wattpad on the computer and in its mobile app, they're very customizable. They recently announced their own publishing division, although they have worked with traditional publishers in the past. They are selecting their stories for publication through what they call editorial curation and story DNA machine learning, which analyzes sentence structure, word use, and grammar to help come up with the next bestseller. And they've used this previously to select award winners and to pick the stories that they turn into movies and TV shows. Wattpad also has a separate mobile app, which is called Tap, and it sends you stories told through text messages and images. And it has a kind of choose your own adventure aspect that makes it interactive. And it also leads us into even more chat fiction apps. Hooked is a mobile app like Tap, and it sends you stories told through text message conversations. It makes you feel like you're snooping on somebody else's phone. They have horror, romance, mystery, comedy, and more. And the way Hooked gets you hooked is you read through several messages, and then you have to wait to read the rest of the story, or fork over the dough to get a subscription if you can't take the suspense or you want access to more content. Reading the stories in small bits is great for when you're bored or you're waiting in line or you just have a few minutes to kill. And it is aimed at teens and young adults. This morning it was the #3 free book app at iTunes and the #1 grossing book app overall. It was #2 on Google Play, so it's really popular. Lore is similar. It has romance, horror, and humor. It offers a free 3-day trial. I cannot say that. And then it has paid subscriptions. It includes images, and it compares itself to Snapchat rather than Messenger apps, and it was ranked #7 in books. People have called group texts the new cliques for teens and tweens, and these apps, when I was looking at them, really reminded me of that. And they're kind of a way that you or teens can learn about these situations and observe them rather than participating in some of the stuff that happens in group chat. So you can kind of like become prepared. So now we're going to move into some reading tools. First up is Bookshare, which is an accessible online library for people with print disabilities. It's free for students and schools, and it makes available over 600,000 titles. It's for students with dyslexia, blindness, cerebral palsy, and other conditions that make reading difficult. It allows users to listen to books and follow along with highlighting or in a larger font. It works with computers, tablets, phones, and assistive technology. A big drawback, though, is that it works using text-to-speech, and some users have complained that the voices sound like robots. But it can integrate with other apps like Dolphin Easy Reader and VoiceStream Reader that have more realistic voices. It is also available for adults with a paid subscription. Then there's Rewordify, which is a website that takes text and it makes it easier to read. You can enter any English text into the box, and it makes it easier. It doesn't just replace with synonyms, it looks at words and phrases, and it preserves parts of speech and verb tenses. So when you see the rewritten text, the words that are replaced are highlighted so that you can see and then learn the original word. It's customizable, so you can decide that you don't want to see what's been reworded, and you can have the words highlighted or underlined. You can copy straight from Project Gutenberg. They also have this list of classic literature that's already rewordified for you, so you can read the whole thing. They have things like the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution. They also have public documents, which are mostly things posted by teachers for their classes, and you can read those as well. If you want to use it to learn new words, you can create an account and log in, and then it'll gather statistics about how long you read and how many new words you may have learned. It offers features for teachers and classes, but it's a great free tool for readers. It's totally free, no login is required, and it works on computers and mobile devices. Then there's Bookster, which is a place to find all things book-related on the web. The site ranges from book culture to pop culture. They have articles, galleries, lists, and quizzes. The lists are like what you would see like book reading resolutions or lists of books that you might want to read. The quizzes are exactly like what you find on BuzzFeed, except they're all book related. And it's a great place to find reading related content that you can then reshare on social media. And I feel like this screenshot gives you a pretty good idea of what kind of content you can find there. Moving on to Book Riot, it's even bigger than Bookster, and it has book-related news, reviews, commentary, advice, and book reading technology. You can find book deals and giveaways. They have articles from both professional and amateur writers and reviewers. You can find book lists and podcasts as well. These tabs along the top make it easy to find stuff by genre. And they also have a shop where you can find all sorts of book-related merch, including shirts, socks, and accessories. They make great prizes. And Book Riot is the home of the Read Harder Challenge, which includes 24 tasks to expand your reading horizons and discover new authors, new genres, and new points of view by reading books that you wouldn't have considered otherwise. So here are some of the Book Riot Read Harder challenges for 2019. And that's just an example. The list goes on. If you like reading challenges, Tanya Patrice has compiled a list of over 100 different challenges that are here, and I will be sharing this link with you at the end. There are challenges for 52 ways to kill your to-be-read list, the Alphabet Soup Reading Challenge, the Bad Boys of Romance Reading Challenge, the Book to Movie Challenge, and my favorite, the Clean Out Your e-reader challenge. Then on to book rewards. As I mentioned earlier, Overdrive and Novelist Plus allow you to search by book awards, and so you can see the book awards listed there easily. ALA has just announced a whole slew at Midwinter, so my holds list is filled up for a while. But there are even more book awards, and there are short lists, long lists, and nominees that are announced each month at all sorts of different places. So the 5-Minute Librarian came up with her Ultimate Book Award calendar that has links to each awarding organization. The post is from 2016, so some of the links there are outdated, but it's great because you can see it at a glance when which book awards come out, and she has them divided by age groups, which makes finding the awards you're interested in very easy. Then, Tanya Patrice has also created a major book awards calendar from 2019, which also lists the winner from the previous year, and she says that the list will be updated with current award winners. The calendar itself also gives you some information about the awards and then includes the dates for the long list, the short list, and when the winners will be announced. So those are two good sources for book awards. If you're looking for reviews, LitPick is a site for students from teen and preteen to young adult where readers can read book reviews, and teens and young adults can also write book reviews. So the way it works is LitPick provides free reviews to authors and publishers who in turn send student book reviewers ebooks to read for free and then review. They have a team of underwriters who evaluate the students' reviews and then send the students feedback on their writing. Once the review is revised, if necessary, the students' review is then posted on LitPick, and students get to choose from a list which books they would like to read and review. Their online presence then gives authors and publishers an audience of preteens, teens, and young adults where they can promote their books. And teachers and librarians can sponsor book clubs and students to use LitPick. So for readers, it's a source of student-written reviews, and for reviewers, it's a source of free ebooks. They just announced when I checked in on their website today that they're now also going to allow adults. Now onto some professional reviews. We've looked at some places that you can find some earlier, and of course Goodreads is a great source for reviews written by regular readers, but I wanted to touch on a few places that have even more professional reviews. Many of the book trade journals and magazines have websites, but generally you can't access everything without a subscription, but you can generally find a few reviews for free. Booklist has their review of the day, and they have articles that often are free and include book reviews. They have lists, top 10 lists, like the top 10 diverse fiction for youth for 2019, or the top 10 YA books for adults. Kirkus's homepage features a buy it or skip it list of the week's bestsellers. They also have a today's featured fiction book review and many book lists ranging from 12 excellent reads for your book club to outstanding natural history poetry for children. Library Journal has a Run Your Week Big Books, Sure Bets, and Titles Making News feature that includes book news and reviews, and they too have book lists. And then Publishers Weekly lets you find some reviews for free on their website. They're also a great source for all sorts of book news, and they have best book lists for different categories from 2009 to 2018. Are there any review sites that you use and would like to add? So if you have some that you would like to add, please add those to the chat box. And then here, I have my list for you of all of the sources that I talked about today, from things in the library to things outside and beyond the library. I have one last one here that's just for fun, which is an app that lets you create book-related posts and images. And I will also have this list for you in my Evernote notebook, and I'll share the link of that on the next slide. But if you wanted to take a picture or screenshot and just have the list this way, I'll leave that up there for a minute. And then I'll move on to my last slide. And again, if you have any questions, now is a great time to ask. Or if you have any comments that you'd like to add to the chat box, please feel free to do that. If you think of something later, please feel free to contact me at kira@kdace.com. And then I have my Evernote notebook, which has all of the sources that I used to make the presentation, plus the list on the previous slide. And I'm going to hop out of the presentation mode so that I can add that link to the chat box. So bear with me for just a moment, please. Oops. Maybe. Oh, it won't let me into the control panel. Well, I got it there. Well, I'm going to have to ask Al to share the link with you afterwards, but I will put it back up on the screen so that you can at least see it. And Keynote seems to be controlling my computer and not letting me into the chat box. But you do have the link there, and please feel free to ask any questions or comment now. And then I will turn it back over to Al in just a minute. Well, I want to thank you all for coming, and I encourage you to please fill out the evaluation when Vicki sends that to you so that I can make my next webinar even better and hear your feedback on any comments that you have.
Kira, this is Alan, and again, I want to thank you for your presentation. Every time I listen to one of yours, it's like getting a whole semester of a library school class in an hour. Really, I think back to what I learned then, and also the tools that we had back then, and it is just awesome. It is almost a science fiction universe in terms of the resources that are available, and I'm impressed that you were able to get them all into a 1-hour presentation. So thank you again.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And thank you all for coming.
Let me add my thanks to all of you for coming. If you've got any final things to add, go ahead and just put them in the chat box now, because we do save the chat as well as the presentations. They'll all be posted, and you'll be able to look at them in probably another couple of days. If there's nothing else pressing, what I'm going to do is stop the recording and turn this off, and then I will go on with the process of getting it to Diana, and then we'll get it posted on the web so that you can review it.